evening and welcome back to another video. We start today with some sort of terrifying news, as the article suggests that US debt is now at $22 trillion and why Bitcoin is important. So, this article is on CCN, which is Cryptocoin News. Today is a record moment in US history. The total national debt has surpassed $22 trillion for the first time ever. The runaway mountain of debt is a terrifying reminder of how fragile the fiat monetary system is. If you want to watch the pile up, visit this unit. I'll have a look at this debt clock. It's very interesting. And this is why Bitcoin matters. Bitcoin, with a fixed supply and an anti-inflationary policy, is an antidote in waiting. So the national debt jumped $30 billion in the last month alone. In total, the US racked up more than $1 trillion worth of debt last year. Debt was spiraled since Donald Trump introduced his $1.5 billion tax cut plan last year. However, we should point out that Obama was a much worse offender. The national debt doubled under his presidency. What was it, around 7 and 6 trillion under George Bush Sr., and then about 8 trillion with Clinton, and then about 11 trillion with Bush Jr., and it's about 19 trillion. Wow, look at that. 19 trillion with Obama, and look at that, over 20 trillion with everybody's favorite, Donald Trump. Now, I'm not a big fan of Trump. However, if you look at when Obama took it over at 11 trillion. And when he left office, it was around 18 to 20. And when, I guess, things were different when George Bush Sr. was around, because it started off at, let's say, 3 trillion and rose to about 85 in his 4 years. But he only had 4 years in his presidency. So let's have a quick look at this debt clock, which is slightly scary. So it sits at what's that? $22 trillion, and the clock is ticking. And the count is just ticking. I mean, if you just look around where things are piling up, you've got 3 trillion for federal tax revenue. You've got gross domestic product 20. I mean, the greens are the positives, what they're making. But then if you try to look at the positives, 20 trillion domestic product, 3.3 trillion for tax revenue, and then you've got 255 billion for corporate tax revenue. But then you look at total US debt, 72 billion, US national interest paid, 3 trillion, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, mortgage debt, obviously I understand, but the question is, why Bitcoin? Why cryptocurrency? Why? If you keep, and I spoke about this the other day, if you just keep throwing money into the market, if you just keep printing currency, which is entirely possible, the Federal Reserve in America, who print money, who control money, could actually keep printing it. All that will mean it will just devalue the dollar. So obviously people say, oh, if we're trying to run out of money, why don't we print more money? The more of something you print, the more the price value deflates. And this is why Bitcoin is anti-inflationary and anti-deflationary, because the scarcity in the product itself means that there was only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. So you can't just add more Bitcoin because we feel like it's not hard coded in. The hard code is 21 million. So that way the price will consistently go up to the point where, let's just say it hit $10,000 end of this month. At the same time, in a crisis situation, we won't be in a position where we just start printing more Bitcoin. We start producing more Bitcoin, mining more Bitcoin, and the price of it just plummets to the point that you need 100 Bitcoin to buy a loaf of bread. And this is what's happening in countries like Venezuela, where they just printed currency because the currency has been devalued and it's worth nothing. The paper is worth more than the currency. I mean, this doesn't necessarily fix national debt, but it's a way to provide a substance for the currency in terms of a value for the currency. Now, the government sits at a world record $22 trillion. I think God only knows what other countries have that sort of level of debt. Obviously, America is very vast, but the world runs on debt. If you go from debt country to debt country, I don't think there's possibly any country out there which is actually in the green. And if they were, they probably would have been, in my opinion, hit by war. There was a rumor that Libya was a country which didn't have any IMF debt, and look what happened to Libya. So it almost feels like it's business to be in debt. You pay the IMF, countries borrow from each other. I don't think we'll ever get to history where a country says, we're bankrupt, give us our money back. And another country says, well, I haven't got any money, so I can't give you any money back. And then, that would end up being like a world credit crisis in terms of where countries default. There's no money. And this is what I think the savior would be. It would be Bitcoin. Now, if you had a strong currency like Bitcoin in the world, and I'm not saying it's there to replace all currencies or replace major currencies like the US dollar or the euro or the pound, but it could be bought in and you'd have something stable which, like gold, you could back against. The biggest problem is the dollar, is not backed by anything. It's worthless. If the government was to collapse, there's 22 trillion now that you owe other countries, other departments within the US. They'd all fault because they're all expecting some payback. So the US debt is 22 trillion. How much of that do they pay back, and where is it paid out to? So it just gets spread everywhere, and it's not a good sign that in the space of around the 1990s to, let's say, 2020, which is 20 years, we've gone from around $3 trillion to $22 trillion worth of debt. It's massive, and I think this is where cryptocurrency can really come in. And I spoke about it last time about people trying to remove debt from their life, and imagine if everybody was given a 0.01 of a Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was worth 100 million. Or even 0.001, people will still end up getting into debt. Unfortunately, we're in a culture where we just always want something we can't afford, and I'm guilty of that too. So we just borrow because we spend. And of course, spending is good for the economy, but at the same time, we buy on credit to buy something else, and that person has purchased it on credit. The money they make, they're now spending, they're buying stuff on credit. So it's a never-ending chain of just credit. We will need to get into a situation where we have almost a basic national allowance or something like that, which could be paid in Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency to get people out of this debt habit. And it's not just countries, it's individuals. I mean, if you look at the debt, it's not just the country's debt, it's individual responsibility. So your debt per citizen in America, $66,999. That's per citizen in America. I think that's 300 million citizens in America or something like that. So we're all responsible. Well, not me for America, but all American citizens are responsible for this debt, and it's only going up. Just watching it, I mean, I don't know how they calculate these figures, but it's nuts. Some of these figures going up is people's earning what they'll earn in a lifetime. Will people ever earn $680,000 in a lifetime? And it's nearly a million already. So, yeah, Bitcoin to save the world, I guess. Anyway, let's move on from this. I spent a little bit too much time on that story. So I spoke about it briefly in another video the other day, but I want to spend a bit more time about. What's this? Get rid of this. Bakkt's launch pushed to later 2019. So in January, I spoke about that I didn't want to be speaking about Bakkt's launch, waiting for it in March time, but it seems like that could be the case. So Jeff Sprecher, the CEO of Intercontinental Exchange, announced that the firm's digital asset platform, Bakkt, will be expecting a launch in later 2019. Sprecher made this announcement during an earnings call on Thursday, reported to Toshi Times. While discussing ICE financial results for Q4 and the 2018, Sprecher disclosed that the company has spent over $1 billion on strategic initiatives, which also include its launch of the digital asset platform. ICE is the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, and operates in 23 leading global exchanges. Let's have a look. And finally, our investment in Bakkt will generate 20 million to 25 million of expense based on the run rate in the first quarter. We'll update you on the progress of Bakkt and the level of investment as we move through the year. When asked about the returns and revenue growth expected from the most recent investments, including Bakkt, he described the crypto platform as a moonshot bet for ICE. He claimed, so it's a bit of a moonshot bet, and it's been organised in a manner that is very different than a way of the ICE typically does business. They're well along in the building out of the infrastructure, and I think will launch later this year. Now, I don't like dates which say later 2019, because for me later doesn't sound like March anymore, and that's slightly disappointing, because we were hedging our bets that we were trying to get to a $5,500 Bitcoin by middle of March, which is just next month now, really, and then that would push us on and Bakkt would be another catalyst to propel the price. But now if we're saying later, it's not saying Q1, it's not saying Q2 anymore. There's no Qs. It's just later. So I don't think March is going to happen, because it would have just said next month. So obviously something's going on in terms of approvals, waiting for approvals. Possibly they need to provide the CFTC with more information or more what's the word I'm trying to think of? I guess you're trying to show it in terms of security, that the product is going to be a good product for its customers and clients. And obviously that's not happened. They haven't had the approval. We have not been given the green light just yet. And I guess the question is, why wasn't this done before? I mean, they've been looking at this probably for 4 years now, and they should have got the approvals back in 2017 or 2018, and they just kept the approvals. It sounds like something which doesn't really expire, but they should have just got it and then left it. There's a lot of things where people just do something early on and then I are happy they did it, because later on it gets more and more difficult and they ask more and more questions. So I mean, that's the news on Bakkt. There's not much there at the moment. We just have to kind of speculate to figure out when it's going to come. The good thing is it's still going to be launched. They've spent a lot of money already, clearly, and they raised a lot of money for Bakkt in terms of funding. How this affects Starbucks and Microsoft, I don't know, because we still don't understand how it integrates into their systems or how that actually works. How you walk up into Starbucks and buy a coffee, or whether you do it on the phone, and you have like a digital wallet on the phone, and then they just call out your order, or you give your name and through the app or something. I mean, there's again no information. This is literally just an exchange or a desk which was going to work for ICE, and then it was going to be integrated with Starbucks and Microsoft. So, not the best of info, and I wish there was a bit more on there. But I'll keep you guys updated as and when I hear more and more news on this. And let's just hope it's sooner rather than later. There's an interesting article, something which I only talk about on this channel. Bit of politics. Israeli NGO threatens to sue Coinbase for enabling Hamas Bitcoin donations. Cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase has been threatened with a lawsuit by an Israeli civil rights NGO, Shurat Hedin Israeli Law Center, if it continues to allow Hamas to fundraise via its platform, the Jerusalem Post reports. Shurat Hedin now wants Coinbase to stop offering services to the Palestinian fundamentalist organization Hamas. The United States, where Coinbase is headquartered, views Hamas as a terrorist, well, in quotation, foreign terrorist organization. A warning came in a letter sent to the cryptocurrency exchange by the NGO. It has recently come to attention that the notorious Palestinian terror groups Hamas currently maintains an account with Coinbase, through which it is accepting donations. Therefore, I'm writing to notify Coinbase that knowingly providing material support or resource to Hamas is a violation of U.S. federal criminal law, and to demand that Coinbase immediately terminate any and all accounts and services provided to Hamas. Now, I don't know how they know it. I guess they must have it on their website where they've got a donation page to provide to Hamas, and they might link the Bitcoin address to Coinbase, and it now fallen to levels of sanctions and legality and definitions of who these people are. Now, obviously, this is Israeli law center trying to sue Coinbase because Hamas, which obviously the US claim as a foreign terrorist organization, are raising funds, which I'm sure they're entitled to do in terms of trying to sue Coinbase. And Coinbase may relent and say, okay, fine, we will block them from doing this. But I guess that's one thing about cryptocurrency. It's not easy just to stop. They will close up there and go set up with Binance, which is based in South Korea or Singapore or Malta, where their laws might be different on the wording for Hamas, because Hamas is a violation in US federal criminal law, not in maybe Malta or Hong Kong or Singapore or Liechtenstein or Ukraine. So, and this is on the flip side of it, the very powerful thing. Now, obviously, the whole Middle East crisis is everything. I don't want to get into that because this channel is not designed for that. But you've got a Middle East crisis where you have two sides and vying over land, ultimately, and you have a organization called Hamas, which has two factions to it, which is you could say a not criminal, sort of a militant side to it, and you have the political side of Hamas. So there are two sides to it, and one obviously is a legitimate government, which is Hamas, which is actually a elected, democratically elected organization in Palestine. So rightfully they should be able to raise funds. So, and this is the thing, it's not this case of just stopping payments going to them, it's going via Bitcoin. So you can't now, if money's been sent to them from supporters of Hamas, then you're not going to be able to just stop them or find out where the money is now. It's gone to them. They can possibly could withdraw it into local currency or whichever how they intend to do it, or exchange those or exchange Bitcoin for wherever they decide to do with that Bitcoin. And like I said, in the flip way, this is where you can get away from sanctions and legality on certain reasons of what a country thinks is illegal compared to a different country. Now, obviously, like I said, it violates U.S. federal criminal law, but if Coinbase was to leave the US and be based somewhere else, then it may not. And this is the thing to be very careful about where you're based and what's, you are governed by the laws you're in the country you're in. So if Coinbase is in the US, it's governed by those laws and it has to adhere to those criminal laws. But if it goes and bases itself in Malaysia or Dubai, then they can claim we're not breaking any laws now. And ultimately, they don't want Hamas getting the money, but it's a little bit too late because donations will still keep coming through. So now they have an address. And the other thing that Coinbase could do is close their account. They couldn't necessarily block the wallet address because all it is a wallet address. They could block the wallet itself and stop funds coming out, but probably they would have transferred the money to another wallet anyway. So it's just a means of payment. Again, it's just showing the power of cryptocurrency and where money can travel to into countries or places where money isn't easily transferable to places like that which don't really have much infrastructure, but money gets there. And that's the reach of cryptocurrencies. That's where I'm trying to look at this story more, the case of where the reach of cryptocurrency gets to. It can get to all corners of the globe. And if companies are working on ways of using cryptocurrency without needing internet connections like satellite or SMS, then you're getting that further reach. And reaches where fiat currency will never get to, reaches where internet may never get to, reaches where gold will certainly never get to. But cryptocurrency is really spreading out this web of infrastructure across the world, and it seems like it's going to blanket the world with cryptocurrency, especially places that cannot get currencies or transfer currencies. Cryptocurrency will be there, especially where people don't want SWIFT. Cryptocurrency will be there, especially where there's countries with sanctions on their cryptocurrency will be there. We're seeing what's happening with Iran and Russia and Syria and Iraq, and the idea of and Venezuela, the idea of having a cryptocurrency or them all combining to transfer money amongst themselves using Bitcoin or Ethereum, wherever it may be. I'm not saying it's right or it's legal or whatever, but this is the point of cryptocurrency. It's away from government control, and this is how decentralization works. And this is really, I feel, the idea of Satoshi Nakamoto and the whole creation of crypto is the control away from government and away from banks, and you as an individual empowering yourself. And this is again goes into the first article about being in debt. You need to empower yourself to come out of that debt and live in the black and not in the red. And that is again the idea of cryptocurrency, is not to be succumbed to this worldly stuff of constantly trying to get into debt because you want to have the best car or the best clothes, or you want to go on the best holiday or the best gadgets. It's looking at what you have now and planning for the future and having full control of your assets. Back in the day, we all just have stacks of gold. We can't do that here. We can't just have stacks of gold. It's not possible, unfortunately. Cryptocurrency is the next best thing. And I think that's one of those things is Bitcoin. So I'll leave it there. What do you guys think about anything I've spoken today? what about the US national debt? What's going to happen with that, and how can crypto save the world? Bakkt, not the best of news we've heard, but we'll get there. I just want to quickly look at the market before really. Oh, it's in the red now. It was in the green earlier. Sitting at 120 billion, so just down maybe half a billion. Volume is not bad, 20.9 to 21 billion. Bitcoin dominance is up slightly, so people are putting their money back into Bitcoin. I mean, there are hardly any percentages down either way. Big earners, nothing I really can talk about. Maker coin, I think that's got a very low volume though. 2 million coins. Sorry, not 2 million coins. 1 million circulating supply. Biggest losses of today, Aurora, Mixin, nothing special. So anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you very much for listening. As always, please like and subscribe, and please comment below for anything you want to hear or talk about or me to talk about. I'll see you guys in the next video.